Hello everyone, I'm Leonardo and welcome back again to the Shadowverse channel. As I said before, after opening a super cool expansion of Duet of Dawn and Dusk, now it's time to see those cards in action. Today, we are diving into a deck build with the newest card, its combo, its strength, and why the reason it's a must pick for this meta. Whether you are aiming to climb the ladders or just to having fun, this deck might become your next favorite. Especially for you, Shadowverse Evolve World Challenger who will be fight in the Bushiroad Worlds Final 2025. This time, I will try to explain a bit shortly than before so we can exactly understand what these cards are for. Without any further ado, let's get into it. Okay, this one's still on the top and still being strong. There are some adjustments, not that major, but very impactful. The newest card from this expansion, of course, Substitution. Rhyme-win-like cards for forest crafts to defend themselves against upcoming new threats, such as Ancient Alchemist, Riley, all versions of Vampy, Apostle of Disdain, and of course, Skuna, Roach, and all puppets token in the mirror matches, while maintaining our own tempo by adding puppet to EX area. And what makes it best is it's a quick card, which any floating you have will make your opponents think harder. Paula, another new two-sided card again for Forestcraft, which you can choose. This might look mediocre at first, but if you know how to use it, this card is a banger. The Gentle Green can help you scry your deck to look for either power or defense tool. The Passionate Red can bounce your token to the EX area and make them forward again to active her combo. Well, other than that, I don't see any new cards available to upgrade this deck. But hey, no worries. Some cards from previous expansion can help you out. Mysteria, to maximize your consistency by increasing your hand size the moment you summon her. Also Lily and Ivy Spellbomb become one of the good optional cards for your deck. Well, depends on the situation you are in and the meta environment. If you like playing forests to maximize their control and tempo power, I think you can try out this one. Yggdrasil, or Yigi for short, give us a lot of choices in our battle. Basically, we collecting a lot of spells in our graveyards and active all of our cards we can play, such as Green Glen X-Men, Iggy spells, and Grasshopper Conductor. Other than that, powerful spell like Silver Bolt can be used as a finisher with Iggy effect. Also, Eleven and Cassiopeia are a good additional in this deck since we have a lot of hands number. This deck might lack in power compared to the other forest craft, but the consistency is very good. Same as previous video, this deck is almost never changed, but the power it packs is still powerful as ever. Basically, for this deck, one thing you need to take care of is the core of the other deck. Your gameplay and pace might become a bit different from before, and also beware of any miscalculations. I won't talk too much about this one since nothing changed, but if you are new here, feel free to watch my video that talk about this one. Forestcraft is one of the Shadowverse Evolve craft that has a lot of playable archetypes, but less of them are surviving at the top matches. Well, fairly speaking, Fairy Forest is still strong, but if we talk about speed, Puppet can outspeed Fairy in the matter of time. Hunter still as it is, not much changes, but I can foresight next expansion, this deck can climbing the meta even stronger, alongside with the new archetype Beast Forestcraft. Fable Sword, or we call it as Black and White Sword, since our new core cards are playing around them. Chromatic Duel maximize the White Queen Hemera and Black Queen Magnus effects. They can rifle the board in the blink of eye while giving you a threatening turn. Other than those two, the deck itself can easily boarding while giving a big damage consistently. Cards such as Prim and Nonja also helpful in this deck to shuffling your deck and reveal your hand. Also giving us a good tempo whether we are going first or second. I have tried playing this deck multiple of times and till today I keep surprised at how fast I can end my opponents. And I think this gonna be one of the strong rock deck in the world 2025. Some players bring Leonidas and Courtly Dance to fasten up the endgame, and having a big boss card is always good. But in this variant, I give you guys a best outline of decks to emphasize the consistency and how fast gameplay which you might not able to handle. Well, if you come from the mobile version, then you might know how fun to play this deck. Usually, when our deck is empty, we are defeated, but not with Spartacus. He made our deck out is something blissful. He gave us a new win condition by emptying our deck, while keep filtering our hand with something new from our deck. And since we can quickly charging our graveyard, cards such as Mysteria can become our additional win con. The longer the game, the more way for us to win the game. Other than those cards, I think you know lah ya how the deck works. Just draw, discard, and deck out. Up to now, this deck is super consistent, even not much change happened. Most players only tweaking the tech card and additional way to deal more damage faster, such as Mysteria package and Tigris package. Well, same as other Natura and Machina deck, nothing much to be discussed. Aggro Hero and Usurpation Sword are having degradation in this expansion. Nothing much to be added and upgraded, make them more slower and left far behind. But still, those are good decks if you like them. Kuon still the best finisher for this archetype. But now, many players start bringing one Flame Destroyer to help maximize the finishing damage, while removing one big wall that Kuon previously cannot handle before the D-Shift turn. Most of the deck skeleton is the same, with some considered tech card input, such as 2 Rhyme Winds to handle token or non-evo threat, Traditional Sorcerer to help heal out little while protecting ourselves, 2 Meteor to clear big board that Sword, Vampire, and Puppet consistently created, and Prophetess to help us filtering our hand with cheap costs. Or maybe the new card Snowman King to lock our opponent follower, which I think very useful against this meta. But wait, I think this card looks familiar? But well, whatever you are going to use is supposedly depends on what craft you believe will oftenly you see in this meta. Now, let's talk about our main topic. This deck is so fearsome. No matter how many times do I have tested this deck, the deck is pretty consistent. Carrot 1 and Faust are new treats that we could say they are the peak of the Dirt Rune. Carrot 1 help us with a lot of answers that previously Dirt hardly can do. And Faust drop 2 sigils free from the deck and also ping our opponents while buffing our follower. Usually, he target himself or God form token summoned from our free sigils. Talking about sigils, Dirt new sigils is pretty insane. It can recover our board and tempo all at once with a very cheap cost. Cards such as Ancient Assamis become more threatening because of it. Other than that, Riley have become the queen of the dirt since she can be played multiple of times, either from the hand or graveyard. But there are 2 big weaknesses of this deck that sometimes not being mentioned. This deck is pretty vulnerable against hard aggro deck, such as Puppet Forest, Aggro Dragon, and Vampire Abyss, which we will talk about later. Also, the second one is the healing power of this deck is pretty much minim and very calculated. Only 3, 6, and 9. This deck needs quite time to set up themselves a bit faster than before, but not immediately. So if you know how to handle this deck and the lethal range of it, you are pretty much safe. But either way, if this deck have a super high roll, I think most of the decks are ruined facing this one. Well, Mysteria or Manaria friends lover, they come to you boys. Now you can eternally shipping them in your beloved card games. Basically, this deck requires us to play a lot of academy cards in our game to optimize the damage output from our Meteor and other burn damage enabler such as Mysteria missile. In Japan version, this deck is already pre-built in DX deck alongside the Dragoncraft newly introduced archetype, but in English version, the cards are being put into the same expansion as they release. This deck is not the most powerful, but if you like it, just go for it. The pro of this deck is its unpredictable burst burn damage. So if you're not wary, you can die immediately. Okay, I know, this one is a meme. But hey, there was someone who won with this deck, so don't judge it from its cover. The deck basically play around the Onions cards and having Bergen to help out the Onions to burst out from the deck immediately. This deck is super fun if you're looking to just forget your tiring day and want to just bang stupid while laughing hard with your friends, and I really recommend it. There are Lishana Control, Machina Rune, and lot of other rune decks. Lishana still legit and some of them won the previous expansion BCS. Well, even without much update, I think Lishana still a good pick for Worlds and shop level tournament. Just need to adapt the gameplay and timing with other craft from this expansion. Let me know in the comment section if you want to see the deck code for this type. Well, other than that, are still struggling here and there to climbing the ladder. But if you want to test the deck, feel free to go with it. This deck is super solid, with an outstanding damage output even not getting any updates. I use this deck in many tournaments and the results are satisfying. The weaknesses of this deck is only yourself, whether it's luck matter or our gameplay. This then surely depends on the high rolling and matchup. But if you really believe in this deck can answer almost any deck you're facing right now. In this variant, I used Bachata to get additional consistency by scrying. And on her evolve, I often use all of the options she had depends on the situation. Other than that, the core still on the Galmutes. There are several cards that can be used as options for this deck. Paradise Vanguard to instant clear and banish almost any core in this meta, because most of the meta in this expansion is on the range 3 or 4 cost play point, such as Bot Vampy, Orchis, Outblood King, Riley, Carrot Wind, and many more. Also, you can put Serpentware to get additional clutch and critter, or Sylvia to push more damage while removing any big threat that you might be facing in the late game. This deck becomes more and more fearsome with additional support in this expansion. Jerva can help you deal massive board damage while preparing your hand. There are some variants for this deck, either using full aggro or combining it with Natura or discard. In this one, I use aggro variant since I have tested and it's the best output result. Thanks to the deck full of low cost cards, we can active Jerva effects without much worry. And since our hand quickly depleted, Jerabane or Jerry looks awesome additional in this deck. The deck can outspeed any deck in this meta, but you must understand this deck big weakness. The longer the game proceeds, the weaker we became. I know, there is Valkyrie of Order, but just depends on her in the late game is such a big loss to me. So be careful to not give your opponent too much time to play here. The newly added archetype in this expansion, same as Academy Rune or Mysteria, this archetype also debuted in DX deck in Japan version. I'm quite fond of this archetype since there are a lot of cards from mobile version that I'm familiar with. But sadly, the output power of this deck is pretty much losing to the other aggro and mid-range deck exists right now. They are very consistent, but the gameplay is very obvious, so your opponent can count and predict your play very clearly. Aftershock is one of the main core cards which summoned by Ryomelia event and will continuing buffed along your play when gather other Draconic Duelist type to the field. Poseidon, Masamune, and Dragon Skyter make a solid combo from here to giving a threat, while Kojuro and Dragon Tamer help your deck to be more stabilized to see what cards you can get. Might look copium at first, But with some help from a friend, Igni, I believe this is already a competitive archetype in this meta. The main idea of this deck is to go forward with cheap damage from Dragon Elf archetype while pushing a big damage from our Wyrmkin tokens from Zirnitra effect. The deck is pretty solid, depends on your knowledge on how to handle other craft. Dragon Needler might look weak, but imagine this board. The damage count is pretty nasty. Forte and Azidaka are of course our main additional pushovers. And finally, our main star in here, Zirnitra. If you play Zirnitra base at Overflow and move forward the dragon, then drop this new form. Your dragons deal 10 damage while you still draw for 2 cards to preparing for next turn play. Imagine guys, this combo on turn 9. Original Zirnitra, new Zirnitra, and then new Zirnitra again. 15 damage and draw 5. Well, that's a dream, but don't forget to keep believing and having fun in each play. That's the core. Natura Dragon is still solid and the same. Players keep tweaking the tag cards like Jerva, Carrot, and Sunlong, since the main objective of Natura Dragon right now is to survive as long as they can while looking for all the pieces needed. Control Ram Dragon, one of my favorite, sadly must take a rest in this expansion, since the way they control the game is not as powerful and fast as before. Armored Dragon still on the bottom, but keep your radar on. Next expansion, this one become one of the powerhouse of the dragons. This archetype is one of my favorite. Not only it can deal a lot of burn damage, but it can consistently put your opponent in disarray. Since most of our cards are amulets, meta deck right now don't bring any removal for amulets, which make your card mostly safe. The tempo it performs from our amulets such as Nightways, Musker, and Globe to help us looking for any answer we needed. Also, cards such as Time's Decree is very awesome, cause there is less drawback to us. Newly added cards such as Carinaean Hint is very awesome, which can help looking for amulets while giving opponents a way to think hard after it's evolved. We can pop an amulet to either heal and ward or ping plus big guy with Bane. Pretty neat. Heavenly Knight also one of the tech cards that I think work pretty good in here. He can deal a sudden decent damage to help us end the game faster with Alexil. White Fang Temple is similar to Mini Seraph, which allows us to drop forward to the field after it cracks from the board. But not only that, it can heal us each turn. And lastly, Moria Encomium, a new awesome amulet with last word as a target to be sacrificed. The deck is super solid and has steady tempo compared to the other decks. One problem from this one is this deck pretty much weak against aggro and burn damage. You can heal, but not too big, and need quite time to preparing for it. So, be careful to not let your opponent hit you too much. I've seen a lot of players use this archetype more than others. New Jin, Beacon of Salvation, help us to move forward bravely. She maintains the board and buff herself the more Jin in our graveyard. So, the more reason to bring the odd Jin, right? Other than that, early drops such as Musker and Ruby Falcon are must-have cards in our starting hand. Holy Lord Ishtar, also one of the endgamer in this deck to push forward the board. Karula is a must-have in this deck to push more damage even more while controlling your opponent. Cards such as Tutankhamun can be added to increase annoyance level of this deck. As the deck name, this deck focuses in dealing steady damage each turn while widen the board. The power it packs might not as strong as the other aggro, but if you're not wary with your health, this deck can kill you very suddenly with unpredictable lethal damage range. Again, with help of my friends, we found a deck that can be competitive in this meta environment. This deck built really hardly depends on the three main culprits: Dirt, Puppet, and Vampire. I pretty much can say that this deck can really holding itself against those three. But be careful, if you met other than those three decks, then just play around with the resources you have. As long you not get outsmarted by your opponents, this deck can defend quite long while depleting your opponent's reserves. Also, thanks to the Dark Gen and Marwyn, this deck can kill your opponents very suddenly. Moon and Sun packages can be input here for more consistency and fight back. Other than that, if you really can hold yourself until turn 9, Mysteria can be added here to surprise turn kill. Machina Haven and Floating Haven still not much different from the previous meta. They are still a solid pick if you convert with the gameplay and do the job well done. But as you can see, the meta environment right now become more tricky. They can deal damage from many sources, either by followers or burn damage effect. So make sure you can handle them and being flexible. It's just a matter of adapting to the meta and countering what you're likely to face. With some adjustments, you should be able to handle both matchups effectively. If you have watched my previous videos, you now understand what I meant when I said the Vampire Rise. Vampire Abyss, which getting a lot of strong support in this expansion, is going to be one of the most threatening archetype in this environment. New Vampy, which get new two-sided Evolve version cards, going to be the very awesome addition. She can protect and attack at the same time. Her white form really help us in defensive manner and adjusting tempo in our graveyard. Her black form is one of the scariest cards I ever seen in this expansion. Other than that, Vampire got a lot of early drop cards to stabilize our aggressiveness and keep pressuring our opponent each turn. One flip might make your opponent snowballing till the end. Old Blood King also help the bats to deal a lot of damage as soon as possible. Older cards such as Good Luck, Unleash Nightmare, and Summon Bloodkin become one of the must-have cards in here. Crimson Rose Queen is to push pressure to your opponent since there's a lot of 2-cost cards in here. Also, Gift for the Bloodkin can become free and make the Rose Queen become more vicious. Both Rose Queen and White Vampy are the factors that make this deck has unpredictable healing range. There are some tech cards which I have tried and I think perform very well. If you having problem looking for the legend cards, Night Horde, Queen Vampire, and Razor Claw often used as conditional tech cards if you already know how the meta envy in your locals. Besides its super strength, there is one weakness that can be used against this Angelic Barrage, a super old but efficient card against Vampire. Also, if you already fully understand how to deal with this deck pretty much not that threatening as you might think. This deck is still solid, even not as fearsome as previous expansion. The deck has not received much updates, but you can put Arcus in here to make your deck a bit faster in milling and filtering the board and damage. Arcus can summon ghosts consistently each turn starting Necrocharge stand, helping us in chipping our opponent's health. Moon and Sun package is also a good additional tech card in here which allow you to do something each turn. And what's more, they are all cost too. They might not be the best, but having extra ward, heal and damager is never wrong, I guess. Anyway, the deck is already solid, so not much to be critic, just be careful enough to adapt to your opponent's gameplay. Well, Anaptys and Ishtar Necrocharge deck get some updates, but not much fight from them. The deck is doing well, but not with the result in this card meta. They can do much for healing and damage, but they're pretty much slower compared to the other archetype. Aggro Sanguine Abyss and Machina Abyss also having trouble against other crafts, especially Rune, Forest, and Dragon. We will try to watch upcoming updates in the next expansion. Idolmaster and Uma Musume might not having much fight from them right now. Some of you might already know that in Japan version, Uma Musume got a new edition and some of it won the championship. But well, let's wait patiently for our English turn, okay? Also, Vanguard collab expansion really soon. I recommend you to order your boxes right now, cause this expansion is a very banger. Especially you from Vanguard franchise fans. And that's a wrap. Those are the decks that has been tested and can be fight in this meta environment. I believe some of you might find your own tech card and your deck compositions to overcome the current meta. But I wish you a good luck on your test, especially you, the World Challenger. This video took quite some time to be put together, from proxy testing until a lot of reviewing. So just a like and subscribe really means a lot to me to keep going in the future. Let me know in the comment section if you want to see the other craft decks that I have not mentioned in the video, or if you need some advice or ask me how to handle this and that, feel free to let me know. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again in the next video. See ya!